which they used an anonymous source. Probably because Lanny Davis didn't want to be named within the article. The problem being, of course, what he was claiming apparently wasn't actually true. Now, this is a really weird situation, and I'm not sure exactly how to read it because I'm thinking this is also technically semi-separate from him not that many days ago, actually. Like literally right in the wake of Cohen cutting a plea deal saying, oh, well, he has some dirt that might be of interest to Mueller. And the whole media jumped on it, and they were having a free-for-all. Oh, indictment soon. Trump is done for this time. Drumpf, 2 scoops and 2 small hands. And then and then he backtracks like 2 days later. He's like, well, no, that's not exactly what I meant. No, he doesn't really have anything of interest to Mueller. I was just sort of I'm thinking that Lanny Davis might be helping Trump. What I'm thinking is that Cohen did not flip, because there's nothing to flip on. I don't think that Trump did anything wrong. See, if you analyze these things as 99% of the corporate media does, you analyze it from the perspective that Trump is guilty and that you're simply looking for ways in which to prove that or give evidence that he's guilty. If, though, you assume that Trump didn't know about the meeting, didn't collude with Russians, has done nothing particularly wrong, and that he's simply a normal politician, which means that a lot of the people around him are crooked, like Manafort or Cohen or whatever, and have broken the law, that's unfortunately normal for D.C., and that it's just because of a lengthy, overexpansive, potentially illegal investigation on, sorry for the pun, trumped-up lies that came from MI6, through the CIA, through to a bunch of FBI agents that weren't following their own systems, through a rubber stamp FISA court, and then Rosenstein who rubber stamped it and gave Mueller expansive power. If you assume Trump didn't actually do anything wrong and that this is like a series of unfortunate events styles, you can analyze things differently and say, aha, it makes perfect sense that this is happening. There is no dirt on Trump. Which means that Cohen's lawyer said that for a reason. I think it's because that they're still on Trump's side. They're playing a role. Much like I expect a lot, like Omarosa. I think she's a Shakespearean actor. She's literally an actress. She's playing a role, a scripted part, in order to help Trump. She's probably being paid large sums by somebody for doing this. I wonder who it could possibly be. Can you say 7 or 8 figures? She's probably making more pretending to be his adversary than she could ever make, being his friend on the surface as well as behind the scenes. I think she's playing a role. At this point, it's it's pretty sure to me. And the way that Cohen's been acting, it's like, I don't think he expects to serve all of that plea deal sort of time anyway. I think he expects after the midterms there's a good chance he gets a commutation or something like that. Or that Trump will pull strings and have him released early for good behavior or something, and he's willing to take the year and a half because he knows he'll be paid well for it. He knows there's like $10 million waiting for him when he's done or something. And Lanny Davis, of course, as the legal representative, the one on the outside still able to speak, is now playing Cohen's role for him. That's what I'm honestly telling you. I think that a lot of the people that supposedly they flipped, they'll be punished, they're bad people, they hate Trump now, I don't think so. I'm not even sure if Jeff Sessions isn't just playing a really, really good role. Who knows? It's entirely possible. By the way, I saw a claim the other day, and I'm not sure if this is true, but it'd be interesting, that when they went through and tried to find, basically they were going through trying to find instances of corruption within Congress, and like the only person they couldn't find anything significant about was Jeff Sessions, I think, or something like that. I'm like, I'm not 100% sure of that. I'm not 100% sure if I'd believe it even if it were true. But that's the claim I saw, basically, in a nutshell. So at the very least, we've got a situation now where CNN looks like they're still refusing to retract. Which is really odd, because basically Lanny Davis is saying, yeah, I'm the anonymous source. By the way, sorry for lying to all your fans live on air. Oh, so there was a little bit of fake news going on that day on CNN now, wasn't there? But CNN, at first, when they were confronted with the fact that the Trump Tower story, we're confident in our reporting. That's because of Lanny Davis being the anonymous source. I think they assumed that he was telling them the truth. And so even though they got evidence to the contrary, they're like, well, no, we still believe him. We still believe this anonymous source that didn't want to be named for, obvious reasons. Now he's coming out literally apologizing for lying to people. And I believe also separately, I believe also separately, and it was him. It was like, well, Cohen's got stuff on Trump that Mueller's going to want to see, and the entire corporate media, oh, they practically lost their heads because they loved the idea so much. They're like, oh, finally, the evil era of Trump is over. Trust me, the corporate media, if they ever managed to get rid of Trump, if they got him impeached and removed from office or something, they would be so desperately sad. Their reporting would sink like a stone. You know, the alt media can still talk about exciting stuff, which is why they're constantly attacking us and trying to deplatform us on everything online, both money and on actual social media now. But they can't. Like, what else are they going to whip people up into a frenzy over? They've all got Trump derangement so badly that at this point, a lot of people, the news that they want is either strictly pro-Trump or strictly, we hate Trump, he's Hitler, and he's scum and a one-dimensional villain. And they fall into one of those two camps, and it's actually funny for people like me that understand, yeah, Trump is doing well, but he also has his quirks, and I'm going to call him out anytime he does the Iran stuff or bombs a Syrian airbase. It's funny because you can never actually have a situation where anyone with a hardened political opinion there will always end up agreeing with you. And sometimes they get mad about it. Honestly, some of you have actually gotten angry at me when I criticize Trump. You're like, no, like, what was it? I think with the flag burning. Now, yeah, it was obvious that he was mocking Hillary Clinton, but still, the very suggestion that you should illegalize that behavior has to be criticized. If you are a monarchist, if you are ideologically cohesive, and you're not simply a Trumpite, then you have to call that out, which I did, regardless of him obviously making light of the situation of Hillary Clinton having suggested the same thing as a little bit of bait for the Democrats. It's like a bunch of other things, like the big stick politics towards Iran. Yes, I'm going to criticize that. I don't want to go to war with Iran at all. I don't want to browbeat the Iranians. The reason why CNN has suffered the biggest loss in ratings of any of the big cable groups. There's a reason for that. It's not just because they're boring and outdated tripe. It's not just because they still purposely are more boring as opposed to MSNBC that gets a little bit more hot under the collar, a little more vicious towards people on the so-called right. Whereas CNN they take a step back and just report whatever the CIA tells them to report through Anderson Cooper. Now, there are other reasons. This could be one of them. I wonder, we probably mine for some other reasons. Could it be the talentlessness of their nightly lineup? Yeah, probably. It's been pointed out, like InfoWars, or I think Paul Joseph Watson it was, and Mark Dyson, all these people, they pull in more people than CNN. But then I looked at that one report they had, I think it was a week ago, where they're like, oh, Ancient Aliens now pulling in more people than CNN in prime time. I'm not surprised. Ancient Aliens is more likely to tell you the truth on any given night. That's the whole point. That's about all.